I'm at the stage of my career, I've started declining conference, but when I heard about Casual Connect in Israel, when they extended their invitation, my first response was, come again? And my second response was, when? So I'm very excited to be here to share some of the research we've done in the kid space with you guys. As Monica mentioned, Interpret is a market research and consulting company. We're based in Santa Monica, California. And we primarily work with the tier one video game publishers, and we also work with a lot of the mobile companies like Kabam, Gree International, Zynga, Tencent of the world as well. But over the last few years, driven by our clients' needs, we also started looking more into the kid space. The other reason was also because my two daughters have started becoming avid gamers. So I have two people I can talk to at home already doing my focus groups. So essentially what we do for these clients, we help them get primary consumer feedback, whether it's doing focus groups, interviews, or surveys. Me personally, I'm a certified moderator of focus groups, and I do a lot of research in China as well. As you all know, China has become the biggest mobile game industry in the world, and if you need any research there, definitely let me know. If I speak more on my background and the company, I think Casual Connect will never invite me again. So let's get to the topic. The data I'm presenting today came from a study we've been doing for the last 4 years called GameByte. We do this research in 10 different countries, US, UK, France, Germany, China, South Korea, Japan, Brazil, Russia, and Australia. And combined, these 10 countries account for about 80% of the global gaming market. So we have really good coverage. And in each market, we survey 400 kids who are 6 to 12-year-olds. A lot of the questions are answered directly by the kids themselves, but when it's the more difficult questions about device ownership, how much money they're spending on different things, their parents were the ones who are answering those questions. And we have really wide coverage in terms of the topics. As you can see, we cover everything from physical media on the consoles to digital games to online casual games, as well as social network games, mobile games, free-to-play games as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from some high-level insight regarding their walletshare, timeshare, and mindshare. And I understand a lot of the people in the audience today are more interested in the mobile platform. So I'm going to focus most of the talk on mobile gaming, and then I'll wrap up with some data points on console gaming. Apparently, that's still a thing. So the total average spend on entertainment in the past 6 months, we did this survey back in the March-April timeframe. So that 6 months actually captured the holiday season in the US. So most of the slides I'm sharing today are focused on the US, which is still the biggest market. But wherever I can, I actually sprinkled some international insights in there. But whatever you see, we have the same data for all the 10 countries I mentioned earlier. So $460 spent on entertainment in the past 6 months for the kids who are 6 to 12-year-olds in the US. And out of that, as you can see, gaming is almost a third of it, about $140, followed by toys and then electronic entertainment devices. And sadly, books only rank number 5, which is good and bad. And then also, you have almost a third of all the parents who are actually spending money on game-related merchandise, the hoodies with Angry Bird logos and things like that. On average, they're spending another $34 on those kind of things. In terms of timeshare, these kids in the US, they spend roughly 11 hours per week playing video games on all the different platforms. Home consoles altogether still capture the biggest timeshare at around 4.6 hours, followed by mobile devices and then PC, and then last, handheld devices. There's a reason why Sony is not making another PSP anymore. And if you look at the individual devices, the biggest share actually went to Xbox 360. A lot of the kids are still not playing on the latest and the greatest 8th gen consoles yet, followed by Android tablet, and then computers. Tablet is the favorite gaming device in the US, UK, Germany, and Australia. Only in France, 3DS actually still has a very large market share. We've been noticing this trend for many years. For some reason, French people tend to love what Japanese people love. And Nintendo and 3DS actually have a very strong market share. And however, in Asian countries, smartphones and computers are the top devices. So we have an open-ended question, actually a couple of them, asking the kids, when you think about play, just in general, what are the top brands that actually came to mind? This is totally writing, no aiding. So the top 3 brands, as you can see, are actually still console-related. Nintendo, Microsoft, Xbox, and Sony PlayStations, followed by Lego, Minecraft at number 5, and then Apple and all the devices in that ecosystem, Disney and Barbie. And we also asked them the top gaming brands. When they think about gaming, what are the top brands that actually came to mind? As you can see, Minecraft actually became the top of mind games in the US. Last year, it was Angry Birds followed by Candy Crush, and this year, Minecraft and Angry Birds actually swapped places. And then you can also notice that there are some mature games on there, like Call of Duty is pretty top of mind, and then Clash of Clans actually emerged as a top title unaided as well in the last year. This is the reason why I'm not showing global data for every single slide, because there's just way too much data. But for this, I want to show you some of the nuances. There are definitely a lot of differences across all these different markets. As you can see, the same question we saw earlier, the top of mind games, it's very diverse when you look at international markets. For instance, in China, Plants vs. Zombies, it's huge. It's been big for 5 years. And EA didn't really make much money because all the money went to the local vendors who pirated the little cards and all the merchandises. And World of Warcraft is huge in China. League of Legends, a lot of the elementary school students actually play that game. And also you can see Counter-Strike and some of the mature games like Crossfire as well. And then in Brazil, Minecraft #1. In Russia, where World of Tanks used to rule the world, including among the kids, now it's Minecraft also. Last year it was World of Tanks #1, but this year Minecraft also became #1. And in Japan and South Korea, pretty localized games, as you can see. Puzzles and Dragons, which is very popular among 13+, also very popular among kids as well. And StarCraft, without a doubt, is a top-of-mind title in South Korea. So why do these kids play? What's motivating them? We asked them to kind of rate the importance of these different motivators for them to play games. #1, of course, it has to be fun. There are kind of kids apps that tend to focus more on the educational aspect. Kids are smart. They can figure out if this is really about teaching me. I don't really get a lot of fun out of it. I'm out of here. My daughter does that all the time. And then after fun, create things, exploring a new world, improving at something, playing with my friends, so the social factor, learning new things, play as familiar characters, solving puzzles, playing games with my parents, feeling I'm part of a story, competing with other players, which is a primary driver for a lot of the hardcore games targeting the 13 to 34 males. It actually ranks very low among kids. However, there are also differences among the different subgroups within the kids group. For instance, the younger ones tend to be more interested in creating things and playing with their parents. The older ones are more likely to be interested in competing and playing with their friends. boys are boys. They're more likely to play games to create things and competing and sharing with their friends. And girl gamers are more interested in playing with their parents and to solve puzzles. So we can actually see some of those differences between the two genders actually emerge pretty early on. And there are also a lot of regional differences as well. For instance, this is not really it is kind of a stereotype, but it's also proven by the data here. Exploration and creating things actually rank much lower in Asia, in China, South Korea, and Japan, partially because of the educational system. Still, when you go to school in China, you're not allowed to challenge your teachers. So the students tend to just follow instead of actually create and explore. So let's take a look at the top mobile genres. These are the top 10 genres, and we have other genres as well. Matching puzzle games, physics puzzle games, those are the top 2 in all the Western markets, followed by runner games, world building games, and farming games. The ranking is quite different in the other markets actually, like Japan, for instance. As mentioned earlier, those battle trading card games are a lot more popular. I'm going to actually share the deck after the presentation, probably on LinkedIn, and I will have information at the very end of the presentation. So if you want the high-def version, you don't need to take the pictures right now. So looking at the top 10 mobile titles, a couple of things actually emerge. Number one, Angry Birds is still number one from the perspective of ever played and currently playing. However, it's losing market share. Just over the last year, it lost 20% in terms of current play. In the meantime, Minecraft actually grew by 4%. And then the other thing you notice is the big gap between ever played and currently play for some of the games like Angry Birds and Candy Crush, meaning they've been losing a lot of the players. However, if you look at Minecraft Pocket Edition, out of the 25% who actually ever played, 17% are still playing. So the majority of the players are still very engaged. Since we've been talking about Minecraft quite a bit, let's take a deeper look at that game. If you remember earlier when I was looking at the different motivators for children to play games, Minecraft actually captures every single one of that. It's not really one game or one genre because it's a sandbox, it's an open world. You can essentially do everything in that world and in that game. That's why it's so popular among kids, because it doesn't matter who you are, you can find something really intriguing and interesting for you. My 10-year-old actually started playing Minecraft 2 years ago. At the very beginning, since she's a girl, she was creating and she was actually making arboretum and a lot of different buildings in the game. But then her friends actually introduced her to the Hunger Games mod, and then she started playing that, and now she's spending most of her time actually capturing the flag and using the little arrows to shoot other people. So her behavior actually migrated from kind of pretty casual, mainly focused on creativity, to the more hardcore behavior. And as you can see here, number one, it's really interesting, even today, as popular as Minecraft is, still 50% of the kids haven't heard of that game or aren't too familiar with that game. And out of the 50% who have heard of the game, 34% are very engaged. And those players, they spend 5 hours a week playing that game. And very astoundingly, out of all the kids, regardless whether they engage with Minecraft or not, they're spending 15% of their total gaming hours just on that one single game. So that's the 800-pound gorilla everybody else is kind of going up against. And in terms of platforms, 360 number one, followed by PC and Android tablets and iPad and iPhone. So how do the kids discover mobile games and apps? Words of mouth, still the number one channel, friends and then family. And then these App Store sources definitely work, whether it's the ranked list or being featured. As you can see, as you know, a lot of you who have games out there, whenever you get featured, especially a surprised feature by Apple, you see that huge spike the day after. So that still works. And then the other thing you can see is ads or commercials on TV. That's not very effective right now for the kids. So don't spend your money there. And a lot of the kids do search for the games fairly frequently. Who select the mobile games to download? The kids themselves actually have the most decision power. The majority of the kids actually pick out the games, or mostly pick out the games, and the parents only participate in that decision. So definitely try to target your messaging towards the kids instead of the parents. And out of all the kids who spend money, out of all the kids who play mobile games, about a quarter of them have spent for in-app purchases over the last 6 months. These includes microtransaction items, but also include like premium purchases after you try the game out. What drive them to make these purchases? Number one, only about 60% of the kids actually dare to ask their parents to spend money in these mobile games. A lot of the kids probably were turned down because they might have spent money before without the consent of their parents. We actually have met a lot of these kids when we were doing focus groups in the US and in Europe. We're like, yeah, I spent $100 in one of these little games and I got some virtual pets, and then my mom said never come to her again to ask for money. So when they do ask their parents to spend money, they want to get special items, they want to get a premium version, and they want to pass a certain level, those Candy Crush games, and then customizing their characters, and whenever there's a sale. Those are the major purchase drivers. And in terms of how the parents are actually controlling the spending for their kids, number one, they still prefer authorizing each purchase individually. 80% of the parents actually prefer that way. And consequently, their behavior also indicate their preference. Majority of the parents don't let their kids actually access their password, although a lot of the kids are very savvy and they can figure out your password pretty easily. If you're a parent, you know what I'm talking about. And gaming allowance is actually pretty common in the US. About 14% of the parents actually give their children gaming allowances, and another 15% give them general allowances that they can use on ice cream and other things. And there's a gender difference there as well. For the males 10 to 12-year-olds, as you can see, they get the most gaming allowances out of all the age groups to spend on games. And China actually leads in the percentage of kids receiving allowances, and the average amount they're receiving is actually similar to that in the US. You need to understand, for every single child in China, there are 6 adults standing behind him or her, because you've got the parents, the grandparents from both sides, since there's a single child policy in China. So they definitely know how to pamper those kids. So to finish up, the last 2 slides are on console games. As you can see, the top 10 console games in the US, number 1 is, again, Minecraft, followed by Call of Duty, 2 Call of Duty games, and Grand Theft Auto 5. Not a behavior I actually approve, but who am I to say? I'm only a parent of 2 children. And then if you look at demographics, not too surprising, a lot of these more hardcore games like Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto, it's male dominant. Disney Infinity, Just Dance, actually Just Dance especially more female dominant. And Minecraft actually has pretty good parity between males and females. So that's all I have to share for today. As I mentioned, we've got a lot more insights and data beyond what you saw here, whether it's the same data for the other countries or additional insight on the other types of games and additional mobile gaming behavior. I made the email address super large, so if you do want the full deck, feel free to email me. And as I mentioned earlier, if you do want to go to China to do research, I'm your guy. Thank you.
I've got actually a question. I wanted to know about regarding 2014, and we're just seeing fresh data. Did you see any insights about a trend, maybe something we can learn from last year to this year, and maybe something even to 2016, any change in the data and the demographics?
I would say the first one is the continuous migration to mobile platforms. Although, as you saw from a mindshare perspective, the consoles are still important, but from a timeshare and wallet share perspective, we definitely see a lot of the gaming hours and budget actually going into mobile devices, which is validated by industry data as well. And then the continuous surge of Minecraft, I can't stress that enough. It's definitely capturing a lot of the time, and not necessarily wallet share, because for most of the kids, they're only spending $26 on that game, and they don't necessarily purchase servers. But there are kids who are asking their parents to spend $20 a month renting servers and then inviting their friends to play. And then when they play in different servers and mods, there are microtransaction items as well. So from that perspective, it's capturing some wallet share as well. Not in my household, only $26. And then I guess the other one is the kind of the continuous genre diversification. A few years ago, it's really just the puzzle games. But now, as I mentioned, especially in the international countries, the genres are becoming a lot more sophisticated, even for the kids' audience. So hopefully that answered your question. Absolutely. Although the this particular survey actually was fielded in April of this year, so that's way before the story mode actually came out. But as I mentioned, we do this once a year. So next year we're going to get more insight on Minecraft story mode as well. We also have a lot of data on the smart toy, toy to life category as well, which we continuously to trend.
Do you perform research on children younger than 6? Was it 6? Yes, younger than 6, number one. And number two, what are the language preferences of the users in Asia? Are they specifically looking for their native languages, or do they handle English just as well?
Both good questions. Number one, majority of our research are actually 13 plus, because that's where the money is. And for 6 to 12, we're actually investing in this research ourselves, although we do have clients like Lego and Warner Brothers and Google who are buying into this data set. But we haven't really had a lot of clients coming to us asking for research around like 3 to 6, for instance. It's super challenging to do. It's more about observation than actually talking to them and getting their parents involved. So we are talking to abcmouse.com, for instance, which targets the preschool audience. So hopefully we'll start doing more research in that regard. And then I think your second question is language preference. I think it depends. If it's like an educational app, I know for sure in China, South Korea, a lot of the Asian countries, English is actually fine because the parents want their children to learn. It's not like in the US when the children said, this is fun, this is not fun, this is about teaching me, I'm out. In China, their parents say, no, go back, right? So English is fine. And then also for a lot of the games that's targeting the younger demographics, language is irrelevant. If you have a ton of language and words in there, then your game probably won't be too successful.
I want to thanks again for this amazing research and sharing this with us. Thanks again, Mr. Michael Chai.